Okay, there are some pieces that are missing from the essays that we have written. Although some students have fabulous ideas, you are not following the correct steps. The problem with this is that when you write for the state, they are looking for specific things. So we're going to put aside what we have done so far, and we're going to start again with a lot of guidance and heavy modeling. This time, we are all going to pretend to have the same opinion. So we're going to go in with the idea that robots should not do human jobs. The first thing that we know from our 10 steps is that we have to read the prompt. And we know we're supposed to write our opinion on robots doing human jobs. We know that our purpose is to present robots doing human jobs as a problem and present solutions that should be based on evidence. We know we must persuade our readers. Now, the next step, after we do purple penguins and we're on find, it's find the text evidence. So we have to read our text. Everyone has the articles. We will underline text that supports our idea that robots are not a good idea for human work, because our opinion is that they should not do human jobs. And we're going to put stars by text that is in favor of robots doing human jobs. We underline text that supports our opinion, and we star text that does not. So in the text, as we begin reading, we come across something here that we decided to star. These teaching machines can instruct students in subjects such as dance, music, vocabulary, and foreign languages. We also chose to star that preschool children in California learn their ABCs, colors, and shapes from a robot named Ruby, and the children love working with Ruby and get upset when Ruby doesn't come in. And we chose to underline, on the robot's first day of school, students treated it like a toy and ripped off its arms. Why did I underline what I did? And why did I star what I did? I underlined this text because it sounded negative about robots. And remember, I don't think that robots should do human jobs. And I starred the things that sounded positive about robots because that's the other side. That's what my opponent would probably argue. So I am underlining the things that I agree with, and I am starring the things that I disagree with. And then I keep reading the text. So I chose to underline as I read. To teach effectively, robots have to be able to read students' reactions and respond appropriately. This is because social interaction is key to learning. I underlined that because I really feel that a robot cannot socially interact well like a human can. I also underlined programming was complicated. I don't think that robots should do human jobs, and it's very complicated to even program them close to what humans would be like. And they must be able to read a child's expression. I underlined that because I think that robots shouldn't do human jobs because they cannot read expressions. And furthermore, that even if they're programmed to try, that children are unpredictable. Now, what is starred here is things that would be on the other side of the argument, so things I would disagree with. On this one is that it says social robots are not being designed to replace teachers, but designed to assist. And also that the robots are a good idea because they give children firsthand experience with technology. As I continued to read, I starred again that the goal was for each student to have a personal robot that will become an expert on that child, because my opponent might say robots could really help children learn and be experts on children. And also I starred that having robots assist could lead to better human teachers. I am disagreeing with these things, but I agree with, this is especially the case with Inky, an English teaching robot in South Korea. One student says he feels like there's something more to the machine than is his teacher. But when Inky said, "I love you," Inky replied, "You need to work on your accent." And I underline that because it further backs up my opinion that robots should not do human jobs because they lack emotion and feelings. They cannot respond appropriately. The next article by Mark C. Timney, I did the very same thing. I chose to underline robots are less intelligent than people because I might want to use that as text evidence to support my opinion. I starred that they don't need a break and that they are programmed to work carefully because that's what my opponent might say. I starred that they can never get tired and rarely make mistakes. And I also starred that they're fun to watch and they can do a lot of jobs that humans don't like to do. Further reading, I underlined that the smartest, strongest robots are clumsy and not as intelligent compared to people. We have yet to build a robot that can move as well as humans can. I want to use this maybe later for text evidence that robots should not be doing human jobs. They're clumsy and they're not as intelligent as people. Then I underlined robots like computers may pack lots of info in their electronic brains, but they still can't think well. Don't ask a robot to come up with new ideas, it'll just stare at you. I underlined this because it supports my opinion that robots should not do human jobs. They're not as creative as humans. And then I starred some further details of the other side. They could do chores that humans hate. They could do the grunt work. We don't need genius robots. Okay, just ones that can do some of the jobs. And finally, here I starred that robots work on military bases and other places for humans. So now that I know my prompt is to write my opinion on if robots should do human jobs or not, I know I am persuading, and now I've found all the text evidence as I starred and underlined. Now it's time to make sure my organizer is ready to go. Now remember, when I'm finding text evidence when I'm writing for the state, I'm going to be using the highlighter on the screen. And there's also a pencil tool that I can use as well to make a difference between those that are things I agree with and things that I disagree with. But now it's time to work on my organizer. Well, I'm going to have a 4 square, and some people choose to put their opening box in the middle and some choose to put it at the top. I know in my opening I'm going to have a hook and a bridge and a thesis. For the hook, I won't write the actual hook on my organizer. However, writing a hook will remind me that I need one. I will write the actual hook when I begin to type. So I don't want to write it all out here because it slows me down. I'm wasting time. I need as much time as I can to write and type. So all I can maybe write is HBT. The bridge will be written when I type as well. It's a sentence that connects the ideas in the hook to the thesis statement. And finally, the thesis. I might want to write it here to just remember my focus. I do not believe robots should do human jobs. Remember, our thesis is always created by reading the prompt. So the prompt told me to write about my opinion, so I created a sentence that told my opinion. Next, I might want to write down the titles and the authors in this box, but I do not have to. I could always just type them from what I see on the computer screen when I'm typing. Or if I'm writing out an essay, I can just look at the paper and write it out. I'm not going to actually write the summary in this until I'm writing my paper. So I do have the option to just leave this box blank and copy the articles and authors down from the articles as I type. But having the box here reminds me to not leave out the article summary. Because remember, once I make my organizer, I'm going to follow it. Paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3, paragraph 4, paragraph 5. So now I'm ready to look in the text to bullet point my claims. I'm going to stick with 2 claims right now. You will need to go to the text for this. Look for any underlined pieces of text and find 2 that you can use to make a claim for. So this time I'm going to scroll back through my text, or I'm going to look at any underlined pieces that really stick out. I liked these pieces that were underlined, and when I underline them, I see that robots should not interact with people because they are not always able to read expressions, and also people are unpredictable. But the thing I need to do before I bullet point it is put that in my own words. So how would I put it in my own words? Well, I could say that robots don't have reactions and feelings like people, and they can't always be programmed because people don't always act the same. Always acting the same means they are predictable. So if they're unpredictable, this is just another way to say that. So I go back to my organizer, and I don't have to write all of it on my organizer. I can bullet point my idea. That means I know the sentence in my head, but I write a shorter version for me to remember, because remember, the organizer we can't spend any more than 10 minutes on. So it is really just to organize my thoughts, not to write my whole paper out here. So remember what my thought was? Robots don't have reactions and feelings like people and can't always be programmed because people don't always act the same. So I'm going to bullet point problem with reaction and feelings. Now I need to make sure that I write down where this text evidence came from. If you look in the text where I was right here. I can see lines 15 and 18 and 21 and 26. So now all I have to do is put JC, because that stands for Django Cohen, and then I put the line numbers that I'm going to use there. This will help me when it's time to write. Now go back into the text to find another claim. I see another bit of text that's underlined, but I want to point out to you that I went to the Timney article this time because the prompt told me to get text evidence from both articles. So if I'm only going to do 2 claims, and I've already gotten one piece of text evidence from Django Cohen, now I'm going to get the other one from Timney. So I saw this underlined. And though robots like computers may pack a lot in their electronic brains, they still can't think well. Don't ask a robot to come up with new ideas, it'll just stare at you. I see this underlined, and I have to think, how would I say this in my own words? How about robots are not creative and don't come up with new ideas? So I'm going to take this and I'm going to bullet point it and put it on my organizer. Not creative with no new ideas. I got this in the Timney article on line 31. Remember, what's important is that you need to check and see that you have 2 claims that came from ideas from each article. You can't just use evidence from one article. Now it's time for me to find the counterclaim. Remember, the counterclaim is what someone who disagrees with you might say. Remember that you put a star by all the things that the other side might say. So let's find a really good one. As I look through the articles, I notice this, and I really think the other side might say that it would be really good for robots to do human jobs because they could do the dangerous jobs. So why would they say this was good? Because it could keep people safe while robots did this dangerous work. That's definitely a point the other side might argue. So I'm going to put that on my organizer. Robots can do dangerous work. And then I'm going to put Timney 32 because that's where I found it. Now it's time for you to answer back to this counterclaim. That is your rebuttal. What can you say about robots doing dangerous work? Your rebuttal can have text evidence, but it doesn't have to. I'm going to say, in my mind right now, Django Cohen did say people were unpredictable. Also, robots can only do what they are programmed to do. For this reason, I don't think I would want a robot in charge of my safety. I think I would like a human who can react quickly, even when people do something out of the ordinary. So I'm going to bullet point my rebuttal. Robots can only do what they are programmed to do. Don't trust safety to robot. So again, I'm not writing in sentences, just bullet points to help me remember my thoughts. Now I'm ready to go to the conclusion box. I can leave this box blank as long as I remember that my conclusion is going to be like a triangle. Here it was like an upside down triangle. My hook's very broad. And then I went into a more narrow statement, which was my bridge, and finally my thesis, which is very specific. So as long as you understand that in the conclusion, you're just going to restate your thesis, then summarize your points, and then a final thought. You could leave this box blank and write it out when you're doing your essay. So now it's time for me to write. So I know that I'm going to do my hook, my bridge, and my thesis, and I indent on my paper and I create a hook that really is going to draw my reader's attention in. Think if you had to go to work to provide for your family, but a robot got the job instead of you. This part is the hook. It gets readers interested in what you are writing about, and it also works on expressing your opinion, because people wouldn't like to think about being replaced by a robot doing their job. Scientists are working on ways to create and program robots to do human jobs. This is the bridge. It is a sentence that tells a little more. It connects my idea from my hook to the idea in my thesis. It is a sentence that gives a little more explanation after the hook. I do not think that robots should do human jobs. This is the thesis. It answers the prompt in a sentence. We're going to try very hard for our writing for the state to let our thesis statement be the last thing, so it's very clear to our reader that we are answering that prompt. So now, what you will go back and do after I go through here is you will indent on your paper and you will copy down this opening so you can see how it all comes together. Now it's time for paragraph 2. First, I need to move to a new line and indent. And then I put my transition and my topic sentence. What is the paragraph about? It's about 2 articles that tell about robots and human jobs. Whatever the paragraph is about, that becomes my topic sentence. Now, some of you are forgetting paragraph 2. You're forgetting to do the article summary, but if you will look at the organizer and say, okay, I've done paragraph 1, what goes in paragraph 2? Oh, my article summary. So now I'm going to say to begin with, that's my transition, and I need a transition in paragraphs 2, 3, 4, and 5. There are 2 articles that tell about robots doing human jobs. That is my topic sentence. My New Teacher, Mr. Robot by Judith Django Cohen is about robots doing teacher jobs. Real Robots by Mark C. Timney is about robots and some people jobs that they are already doing. So I have a transition, topic sentence, followed by article, author, and then the summary, and then article, and then author, and then summary. Now, I want you to move to a new line, indent, and write out paragraph 2, and you will do that again after this video is complete. Now it's time for paragraph 3. I've done 1, I've done 2, and now I'm going to address my claims in paragraph 3. I go to my organizer. I see my first bullet point is problem with reaction and feelings. Problem with reaction and feelings. So I transition, I make a topic sentence, and then I turn my first bullet point idea into a sentence. I know this whole paragraph is going to be my claims, so it's going to be about me telling why robots should not do human jobs. Following reading the articles, it is clear robots should not do human jobs. My transition, my topic sentence. First, robots do not have feelings and expressions like humans and can't always be programmed because people don't always act the same. I turned this bullet point, problem with reactions and feelings, into that sentence. Now, the next thing that I need to remember to do if I look at my organizer is there's this little thing here that reminds me I need text evidence. So I need to write the author's name, and I can use the author's last name now, and say Django Cohen states, or Django Cohen mentions, or Django Cohen points out. And I have 2 choices. I can go back into my text, and I can put it in quotes, or I can read it and I can paraphrase. And if I paraphrase, it just means that I take the information here and I put it into my own words. And if I do that, then I do not have quotation marks. So that's what's done here. As Django Cohen writes, Programming robots to socially interact is complicated. People and children are unpredictable. And I got that directly out of the text. Now I'm ready for my second bullet point. I look at my organizer again. It says not creative with no new ideas, and I turn that into a sentence. And after I've done that, again, I will go back into my text. I will look for line 31, and when I find it, I will look what was underlined, and I can either put that directly into quotations now, or I can paraphrase it. So again, also, robots are not creative and don't come up with new ideas like humans. Again, I'm getting that from right here. Now, I write, Timney points out that robots have a lot of information in their electronic brains, but they can't think well, they can't come up with new ideas. You can see there's an A-B pattern here. Orange, green, orange, green. This is the writer's own words and then text evidence, the writer's own words and then text evidence. That's a pattern that we need to follow. So when you're trying to tell what it says in the text, say, as the author writes, and then tell me what the author said. Or as the author points out, and tell me what the author said. So you make a point and you back up a point. Now, after we go through this video, you will come back and you will write down paragraph 3. Now it's time for me to go to paragraph 4. In my organizer, I know that here I'm going to do my counterclaim and my rebuttal. So I need to transition, do a topic sentence, and make this counterclaim into a sentence. So the transition I can use is as you can see, or I can see following, or I might say although I think, but here's this transition. I don't think robots should do human jobs, but some others disagree. So the reader knows that this is my topic. So this paragraph is going to be about that others could have a disagreement. Others point out robots can do dangerous jobs that help people be safe. Timney writes about a security robot that patrols places and can report fires and hazards. And again, where did I get that sentence? From my organizer right here. Robots can do dangerous work. And then I went back into the text to find this. I had to pause there for a minute, so let me regroup. So we did our transition, we did our topic sentence, and we mentioned the counterclaim. And again, I was showing you where that information came from because it is on your organizer, and you got this information from the text. The next thing is that I need to put my rebuttal. And this is the answer, my argument back against this. And where am I getting it? Again, my idea is here. Only do what is programmed, don't trust safety to robots. So I put those ideas in my own words. However, I would like for everyone to always begin your rebuttal with however, or although they say that, I still say, or still, I believe, or yet my belief is, or though they say this, I say. You need to have some sort of transition to make a mark between their counterclaim and your rebuttal. However, I think that robots can only do what they are programmed to do. They can't think quickly. I would want a human keeping me safe, not a robot. So now that you are done with paragraph 4, you're ready to move on to the conclusion. Remember, the thesis was, I don't believe robots should do human jobs. How can I put this in new words? I could say, I disagree with machines doing the work of people. So I use synonyms for human and people. I use don't believe and disagree, and I changed machines out for robots. So all you're doing is just restating the thesis in a new way. Then getting a little less specific, I need to summarize a couple of my points from my essay. In paragraph 3, I saw that I had written about lack of emotions and no creativity. They weren't good thinkers. And my final thought is not very specific. That's why it's the biggest part of the triangle. However, if I can link, it's my final chance to persuade my reader. If I can link back to the hook and opening, then I will try to do that. So it might sound like, to wrap up, again, I have to have a transition. I disagree with machines doing the work of people. Restate the thesis. They lack emotions and are not good thinkers. Again, that's just summarizing some things from paragraph 3. Humans can still do all of this better. Would you want your job replaced by a robot? And that's my final thought, to really try to persuade my reader. When I have written all those out, this is what my essay will look like. I will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 indentions. I will have 4 transitions to begin with, following, reading the articles, as you can see, to wrap up. And there's lots of different transitions we can use, but these are just ones that are being modeled here. And again, I'm going to make sure that I have expressed my own words, but I also have text evidence. I can see Django Cohen writes, and I can see Timney points out, and I also can see that Timney writes. So I know that I have used text evidence from both articles. So now it's time for you to turn off this video now that you've seen how everything goes together, and you are going to go back and you are going to write out paragraph 1, making sure you're noting those transitions and topic sentences as you go, and then paragraph 1, and then write paragraph 2, and then write paragraph 3, and then write paragraph 4, and then finally you will close up and write the conclusion. So stop that and do that now. And before you begin writing, you can ask your teacher if you have any questions.